Juan Manuel Marquez versus Juan Diaz, the fight that should not be on pay-per-view. Golden Boy Promotions, and this is a video I've been wanting to make for a while. I haven't had a chance to. Golden Boy Promotions has made Juan Diaz versus Juan Manuel Marquez a pay-per-view fight. And honestly, my personal opinion is this. I think that it's unfair to boxing fans to have to pay for this specific event, because you have two fighters who are both coming off of losses. One to Floyd Mayweather Jr., the other to Paulie Malignaggi. And a lot of people are wondering, Juan Manuel Marquez, is he possibly coming to the end of his career, though losing to one of the most best technical fighters in the world? And Juan Diaz, a lot of people are wondering about him, how many years Juan Diaz has left, because he just lost to Paulie Malignaggi, who is actually a really good boxer. So I do personally believe that Golden Boy is cashing in on the fact that the last fight was Fight of the Year. And don't get me wrong, it's a fight that I would love to see once again. It was on my top 5 fights of 2009. But would I pay would I pay to see this fight? Is this fight worth paying for? Despite the last fight being a really good fight. Personally, I'm not going to pay for this specific pay-per-view. I'm probably going to find something else to do that night, because the reason I'm not watching this pay-per-view is because it's not like both these fighters have anything. It's like this: both fighters don't really have anything to gain from this specific fight. Juan Manuel Marquez, maybe. I believe Juan Manuel Marquez might have something to gain from this fight, but Juan Diaz, I highly doubt. I highly doubt that Juan Diaz would gain anything within this fight. I think in this fight, pretty much what this means is the loser will either become a gatekeeper or will be at the very end of their career. It's that simple, because Juan Manuel Marquez, I think, is hitting 37. I think he'll be 37 by the time of that fight. Been in some good bouts with Manny Pacquiao, Chris John, and Floyd Mayweather Jr. Been in some good bouts, and 37 years old. He's probably been beat up quite a bit in the ring. Been fighting for years, and I think that a loss would signify the end of his career. Juan Diaz, pretty much with Juan Diaz lost to Nate Campbell in 08, lost to Marquez early 09, and in my opinion lost twice to Paulie Malignaggi. And with his degree and getting his degree and everything, I do believe that he's going to be at the end of his career as well if he loses this specific fight. So what are we paying for? With Danny Jacobs on the undercard, maybe we could be seeing the beginning of something new in the sport of boxing. But at the same time, in the main event of the card that everybody's perhaps going to pay $50 for, is it worth watching a man's career end while another career is at the beginning of the end? That's how I think of this fight, because I think that whoever loses this fight, I think it's just going to be the absolute end of the career, and the person who wins is the beginning of the end. Because there's talks of Juan Manuel Marquez fighting, Amir Khan, Timothy Bradley, Devin Alexander, young guys, young, hungry, up-and-coming fighters, good fighters, and they all hold championship belts. And holding a championship belt isn't the same as it was 20, 30 years ago, but these are young, hungry fighters. And Juan Diaz, and I think with Juan Diaz, we know that he cuts, on those eyes easily, cuts on the eyes, and other than that, doesn't really have much punching power, but he's a good volume puncher. He tends to put on some good pressure on you. So, but at the same time, I just think that's the beginning of the end for both fighters, and it's something that I'm not going to pay to see. And it's not really worth paying to see with two fighters who have lost, who are both, and in Juan Diaz's case, practically lost his last 3 fights. Manuel Marquez has had some good wins, one being over Diaz, and he has a fight with Mayweather, which was one-sided, but he hadn't been in the ring in about 10 months. So you have a 10-month layoff, and another fighter who's probably coming off of, I'd say, a 9-month layoff. About 7-month layoff, excuse me, and both coming off of losses. But they had the fight of the year. So I guess Golden Boy thinks that people should pay to see it. And I think it's going to be a good fight. I think it will be a good fight. But is it a good fight worth paying for? Is it a good fight worth, spending the $50 on? And don't get me wrong, I have $50, to watch pay-per-view, do whatever I want with. But more than likely, I'm streaming this pay-per-view because in this fight, I know this fight more than likely could be a war. It could be either a war or a technical bout. One of the two. You have a 50-50 chance. It's just like the ways of winning a fight. It's either one or the other. And I honestly don't know with this fight. I'm not paying for it on pay-per-view because it's really, in my opinion, it's just not worth it. So I'm gonna label this video Diaz versus Marquez, the fight that should not be on pay-per-view, because it's not worth paying to see two fighters who are beginning the end, in my opinion. It'd be different if they both were, in their primes, in the prime of their careers, top level superstars. If it was about, I'd say 08, maybe 2008. Last year was pretty good. I may have paid for it. I probably would have paid for it last year. But you have two fighters who and also what I do think about, and this is just coming in, maybe it's just a thought, and this is a thought. Maybe since Marquez, did a million with Mayweather, maybe he can do good numbers with Diaz. But who knows? So anyway, that was the distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.